Salutations, fellow Homo sapiens. Today we're going to be taking a look at a refurbished Nintendo Game Boy Advance that has actually been refurbished by Nintendo themselves. This is a Game Boy Advance SP that has been refurbished by Nintendo themselves. So I'm pretty excited to see what it's going to be inside. There is an address as to the original person, I presume, who received this on the back. That's all been scribbled out. Big thank you to my friend Matthew over at Next Metal on Instagram. He's not selling everything, but every now and again he does shift a bit of his collection and he offers it to people like me, his friends, who are interested in purchasing crap like this. So this says Game Boy Advance ASSY AGB display, I presume, only. And then underneath it actually says something else, but I can't quite read. It says something about power, advance swap, maybe. So maybe it had like a sort of a power issue. And apparently, according to Matthew, they reuse these box. So this little label here, which I think corresponds with the label on the Game Boy, isn't actually going to be the exact same sticker. So I think these boxes get reused, which is pretty bloody stingy from a multi-billion-pound company. So inside, here is the actual Game Boy, and it says Nintendo serviced product. We'll take a look at that sticker in a second. Now, as far as I'm aware, Matthew told me that this Game Boy has never actually been opened since it was returned from the Nintendo Repair Center. And I think the origin, as far as the origin of this specific unit goes, his friend worked in the Nintendo Repair Center, and apparently they closed down, or that specific shop that dealt with those repairs closed down, and then this guy bought the stock and sold some of it. I think that's where it came from. That would make sense because not many people are going to have this sort of box, which I think is probably an internal box only for actual Nintendo employees. So fairly interesting stuff so far. So yeah, you can see there is a little bit of tape there. We're going to have to break the seal on that, unfortunately. But what is really damn cool is it says Nintendo serviced product. This product has been remanufactured according to factory specifications and tested by quality service technicians. Returned to authorized servicer Nintendo PN 26611 Rev E. So yeah, that is a really damn cool sticker. And I can see on the back here there is a little sticker there, which, as I mentioned, does not match the sticker on the box, but that is apparently, according to Matthew, who knows way more stuff about this than I do, apparently that is a normal thing to not have a matching serial number. But here we go. We're going to break the seal. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be sad. I'm just going to check that everything is recording. It looks like it is. Here we go. I'm going to try and do this really, really carefully because I would like to just stick this back down again. Boom. I am, as far as we know, the only member of the public to have held this refurbished Game Boy. Look at that. Okay, so immediately I can notice there is some sort of a residue up in the corner of the lens there, but you will definitely be able to tell there is no scratches. Oh, look, it's so reflective. There is no scratches on this lens at all, and that is exactly what you'd expect. You know, it's been returned to the factory specification, so I wouldn't expect there to be any scratches. Now, the other thing that I can immediately see as well is the buttons are not even a tiny bit worn down. Often with Game Boys, because the buttons are things that actually stick out, these buttons get super scratched up, and you'll probably be able to tell there isn't a scratch in sight on anything, and that's obviously because it gets placed face down and will just scratch around on the surface. So really damn cool. It's just so minty. There is absolutely nothing I've ever seen like it. It's absolutely minty fresh. So let's go ahead and take the battery cover off and just take a look inside. The battery contacts don't look like they have ever seen a battery. So with this sort of thing, I can't imagine it's worth Nintendo's time to actually delve in and find out what is wrong with the Game Boy. It seems to me like it'd be so much easier just to replace the unit. I don't know, but I'm guessing this is probably just a brand new Game Boy and it wasn't actually refurbished, but maybe it was. Who knows? One thing I do know is that I need to put some batteries in and try this out. So here we go. Batteries going in a refurbished Game Boy Advance for the first time. Going to be really careful not to scratch it because I want to keep it minty as possible. Boom, we're in. Let's turn it on and see what happens. Imagine it didn't work. One thing I can notice as well is the volume wheel is really nice and stiff. They sort of loosen up over time. Now, for those of you who've watched my channel for a while, you will know that I own this, which is a Nintendo Repair Center test cartridge. Now, although this is for the DMG, it will still obviously work inside this Game Boy. So let's put a Nintendo Repair Service cartridge in a Game Boy that has been repaired by the Nintendo Repair Center. We're in. I think we're in. Let's turn it on. Yes. Immediately registered that it's a Game Boy game. Here we go. Oh yeah. This is so potentially uninteresting for a lot of people. Although I can report the stiffness of the buttons is very, very satisfying. I think these membranes have definitely been replaced, although we'll be able to confirm that in just a second. But yeah, look, everything works perfectly. The L and the R buttons feel very stiff. It's all very nice. Let's remove that gently and carefully. And let's pop it open. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to need a tri-wing screwdriver for this. And I'm going to get the exact size so that we don't risk rounding any of the screws. So one thing that is quite cool is there sort of seems to be like a black screw up here. I'm not sure why. Maybe that's because it's sort of oxidized or something. I don't know. It hasn't really been exposed to air because it's been inside a plastic bag, but interesting nonetheless. I've never seen a black screw, tri-wing screw. It is actually just the black tip, so I don't actually think that that's a special screw. It's so nerve-wracking undoing these screws. I don't want to round them or scratch anything. I've never been put in this position before. I've never been so scared to take apart a Game Boy, and I've taken apart so many Game Boys. Imagine this is what it feels like to take apart your first Game Boy. So that is all the tri-ring screws out. Let's take a Phillips screwdriver and just remove the one little Phillips screw that's right there. Okay, right, no scratches to any of the screws. Lovely stuff. We are lifting up the back cover for the first time. Boom. Okay, right, immediate examination. Everything looks minty. One thing that is really, really fresh, and I'm not going to take it off because I just don't want to risk it. This little metal shield in here usually gets really scratched up from games going in and out. Not on this one. Absolutely immaculate. So cool to see. Absolutely awesome. Okay, so here it is. This is the inside of the Game Boy. Now, it did say display only, so maybe that was the actual thing that was replaced. I don't know if display in Nintendo Repair Center terms means screen or screen lens, or, you know, I just don't know what their lingo is. They'll probably have very specific terminology, but as far as I know, display means the screen. So maybe the screen was replaced, but it doesn't make sense that the whole shell and everything would be in such good condition. One big telltale sign is going to be the button membranes, because if they are really shiny on the surface of the conductive pad, then we'll know that this is actually quite an old used Game Boy, and it probably won't have been just outright replaced, and it would have been actually repaired. So let's take a look at those silicone membranes. Unfortunately, in terms of the motherboard, there isn't a lot of telltale signs as to how old it is. The one that I did mention at the start is obviously the volume wheel, which is really, really nice and stiff, which is a good sign that it isn't, you know, very used. But then again, some people might just not have adjusted their volume a lot. So I really don't know if they've just replaced this or repaired it. It's really difficult to tell. Okay, there we go. Flipping it over, and another immediate telltale sign that this is actually a brand new Game Boy, or at least the parts are brand new, is the quality of the speaker. Usually, because obviously there's a speaker grill right here in the plastic, there is just so much dirt which is accumulated on that speaker. But this one actually looks fairly good. I can immediately see the button contacts, if not replaced, have hardly ever been used, but they may be brand new buttons. It's not something that you can really tell. They could have just been replaced outright. I really don't know, but they are definitely not used, which is really cool. So there we go. That is really going to tear down the whole thing as far as I'm willing to go. I don't want to start twisting the shell to get the screen out. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to do that. I don't really think it's necessary. It is really damn cool to see this sort of thing surfacing every now and again. Now, a quick tip while I'm putting this thing back together, to make sure that you don't damage the plastic shell as you screw the screws back in. If you back the screw up slightly in an anti-clockwise direction until you get a bit of a that noise, that is the screw falling back into the threads that are pre-existing in the shell. What you don't want to start doing is tapping a new thread, because then you run the risk of not only cracking the actual screw post, but also rounding the screw, because it's going to be harder to screw it in. So yeah, little hint there for you. Okay, and there we go. Everything is back together again. I guess to conclude this video, there's two questions to ask. The first one, is it worth it? I think that's one of the questions that people gravitate back towards again after they've teared it down and had a look at it and to get their conclusion. The answer is yes and no. Yes, if you're a collector and you want to spend around $100, I think that's what I paid for it, on something like this, it has a collectible value. It's a very nice thing to have on the shelf if you're into Nintendo repair stuff, which I am. In terms of spending $100 on a Game Boy Advance, the answer is definitely no. You can buy Game Boy Advances for $5 if you get lucky, even less at a car boot sale. The average going rate of a Game Boy Advance is around $20 to $30, the same in pounds. So the answer is no if you want to buy a Game Boy to actually play on. Don't spend $100 on a refurbished one. That's a bad idea. You can refurbish them yourself for way under that and customize it with different colors and stuff. So yeah, the second question, has this actually been repaired? I'm going to say no. I don't actually think this has been repaired. It's interesting that there's some sort of a stain, like residue on there, but I don't think this has actually ever been, you know, broken into with a screwdriver and then things have been repaired and replaced. I just don't think it has. It doesn't make any sense to me that Nintendo would do that. They are a multi-billion-dollar company. Even back when they were making these Game Boys, they were doing very, very well for themselves. So I don't think that they've actually gone in there with a screwdriver and some guys replaced something. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. We'll probably never know. I do know, actually, for a fact, that I have seen on eBay a job lot of Nintendo repair center replacement parts that came from a similar thing to this, which was just a Nintendo repair center closing down, and they were clearing all their stock from probably sold from a liquidator or something. So there is a potential that things have been replaced, because obviously replacement official parts did exist. So who knows? I don't know. What I do know is that I enjoyed this. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, put a comment in the comment section, and I'll catch you in the next video. Goodbye!